Sometimes, the universe sends you a reminder, not through headlines or board meetings, but in the form of 4 tiny paws. It was early morning in Los Angeles. The streets still carried the hush of dawn, lit by the soft amber glow of a sun just beginning to stretch across the skyline. Elon Musk, a man whose name was more often associated with rockets, robots, and revolutions, had carved out an unusual moment of stillness for himself. No media frenzy, no high-stakes meetings, just a quiet walk, hoodie up, hands in his pockets, sneakers brushing the concrete with each step. He wasn't trying to escape anything. Not really. But even visionaries need air. He walked without a destination, soaking in the rhythm of the city, its early honks, the clinking of coffee cups through cafe windows, and the occasional laugh of someone lucky enough to be awake but unhurried. And that's when it happened. At first, it was subtle, a couple of passers-by giggling, nudging each other as they glanced behind him. Elon noticed, instinctively patting his back as if checking for some wardrobe malfunction. Nothing. Still, more people were starting to smile. But not at him, exactly. At something, trailing him? He turned around and froze. A small, scruffy puppy was trotting behind him, ears perked, eyes shining with a wild kind of hope. The little dog's tail wagged like it was trying to keep rhythm with Elon's steps. There was no leash, no owner in sight, just this furry stranger, determined to keep up. Elon blinked. Once. Twice. "Where did you come from?" he murmured, crouching down. The pup didn't flinch. Instead, it moved closer, sniffed his hand, and sat, right there on the sidewalk, as if declaring itself home. Elon hadn't planned for this. He was a man used to complex decisions, orbital trajectories, billion-dollar ventures, conversations with world leaders. But this tiny life looking up at him with absolute trust? It was disarming. The dog looked like it had been on the streets for a while. Its fur was tangled and dirty, one ear slightly bent at the tip. But its eyes, oh, those eyes, were full of something Elon hadn't seen in a while, raw, uncomplicated affection. People around had begun to notice. Phones came out. A few snapped photos, whispering, "That's Elon Musk, right? And that's his dog?" Except it wasn't his dog. Not yet. Elon stood, unsure what to do. The puppy stood too, still trailing him. And so they walked, past cafes, past curious eyes and camera lenses. The puppy kept up without hesitation, tiny paws pattering on pavement like it was the most natural thing in the world. Elon wasn't sure why he didn't walk away. Maybe it was the morning light, or the absence of pressure, or maybe, just maybe, he didn't want to. When he reached his next stop, one of his offices, the receptionist blinked twice at the sight of the world's most famous CEO strolling in with a dog at his side. New hire?" she joked. Elon chuckled. "He followed me here. I think he wants the position of chief disruptor." Inside, his assistant stared. "Is that the dog?" "Apparently," Elon said, bending to offer the puppy some water. "He seems to think he's mine." The conversation could have ended there. But it didn't. Someone suggested taking the dog to a shelter. Elon hesitated. He'd read the stats. He knew how many strays never left those places. The thought of leaving this trusting creature behind a cage door? It didn't sit well. So the puppy stayed. Right there at his feet as he took meetings, reviewed designs, and pitched ideas about Mars and AI. Occasionally, the dog would nudge his shoe with its nose or shift closer, sighing contentedly. And Elon? Elon kept glancing down, again and again, at this unexpected companion who didn't care about IPOs, spaceships, or algorithms. Only that he'd found someone. By the end of the day, the decision was made. Elon scooped him up gently. "You're coming home with me," he whispered. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't calculated. But it was honest. And sometimes, that's how the best decisions are made. That night, In a quiet living room where the lights from downtown flickered like stars, the little dog curled into a fuzzy ball at Elon's feet. He slept like he belonged there. And maybe he did. The funny thing about unexpected encounters? Sometimes, they stay with you far longer than anything you planned. The next morning began unlike any other in Elon Musk's life. He wasn't jolted awake by an early investor call or the buzz of engineers solving a glitch in some Mars module. Instead, it was something softer, warmer. Tiny paws scratching gently at his bedroom door. He opened it to find the scruffy puppy, still unnamed, sitting patiently like he'd done this 1,000 times before. As if to say, "Hey. Morning. I'm still here." And Elon smiled. A real, unfiltered smile, the kind even he didn't realize had been rare lately. They walked together to the kitchen, where Elon poured himself coffee and fumbled through his cupboards for something remotely edible for a canine. He finally settled on some turkey slices from last night's half-eaten sandwich. The dog devoured them, tail swaying like a metronome set to happy. He still hadn't named him. But that would come later. Elon had a packed day ahead, board meetings, interviews, and an internal demo for a new neural interface. But somehow, everything felt lighter. Different. He found himself checking the time not to rush, but to make sure the little dog wasn't alone too long. After a quick call to his assistant, arrangements were made, a mobile vet was scheduled, dog food and supplies ordered, and the Tesla office was told to expect an additional, non-human, guest. As he got ready to leave, Elon looked down at the puppy, who sat waiting at the front door like he already understood the routine. "You really think you live here now, huh?" Elon asked. The puppy gave a bark. Just one. Confident. Like a yes. At the office, people were waiting, but not just for Elon. Word had spread. The photos from yesterday had gone viral overnight. #ElonandDog was trending on Twitter. Headlines read, "The stray that chose Musk, from street pup to space pup, and man's best friend meets man who wants to colonize Mars." The puppy, oblivious to his rising fame, trotted beside Elon through Tesla's sleek glass halls, sniffing corners and cautiously examining desks like he was evaluating the place. Employees came over to greet him, some offering treats, others just wanting a moment of unexpected joy in the middle of another intense day. Someone asked, "What's his name?" Elon paused. And then it hit him. "Hobart," he said. "That was the street I met him on." Hobart. It fit. Strong yet a little odd. Like the dog himself. Soon, the name caught on. "Morning, Hobart," employees began to say as the pup strolled through the factory or plopped down in Elon's office, where he claimed a spot by the corner window, dozing in sunbeams as futuristic ideas were tossed around in meetings. Elon found himself glancing at him often. Not distractedly, but with curiosity. This dog, this stray, wasn't just tagging along. He was present. Fully. Happily. Without an agenda, without needing anything other than a warm spot and maybe a pat on the head now and then. It was grounding. For a man used to thinking 10 years ahead, Hobart was a reminder of now. Of course, things weren't always easy. Hobart still had the instincts of a dog who had survived alone. He once chewed through the corner of a very expensive prototype folder. Another time, he barked at a robot, loudly, causing a very confused intern to spill coffee on a near-final design. But even then, Elon didn't lose his cool. In fact, he laughed more than people had seen in years. One evening, after a long day, he posted on Twitter, "Building rockets is tough. Training Hobart? Tougher. But probably more fun." It got millions of likes. More importantly, it got people talking, not about Tesla or SpaceX, but about pets. Rescue stories. Their own Hobarts. What began as a simple, quiet act of kindness, letting a puppy follow him home, was quickly becoming something much bigger. And Elon? He didn't mind. Every night now, Hobart curled up by the foot of his bed, gently snoring. Some nights, Elon would lie awake, thinking about the chaos of the world, the challenges ahead, the impossible goals he'd set for himself. But then Hobart would shift, let out a soft huff, and settle closer to him. And somehow, things didn't feel quite so impossible anymore. A few weeks later, Elon was preparing for a major product reveal. Cameras were everywhere, nerves ran high, and everyone moved at lightning speed. Hobart sat backstage, watching quietly, tail wagging in slow rhythm. Just before stepping on stage, Elon crouched beside him. "Wish me luck," he said. Hobart licked his hand. It wasn't a calculated strategy. It wasn't an engineered formula. But it was exactly the encouragement he needed. And as Elon Musk walked out to thunderous applause and flashing lights, he carried with him a quiet truth. Sometimes the greatest ideas don't come from data or algorithms. Sometimes they come from a little creature who reminds you how to care, how to pause, how to be human. You can build rockets to Mars, revolutionize energy, and shape the future of AI, but sometimes it's the quiet tail wag by your side that reminds you why any of it matters. Weeks passed. What had started as an odd, unexpected friendship between a billionaire and a stray dog was now becoming a permanent fixture in Elon's life. Hobart wasn't just adjusting, he was thriving. And he wasn't just fitting into Elon's routine, he was quietly reshaping it. Each morning, instead of jumping straight into emails or project decks, Elon now started his day with a walk around the neighborhood. Not for fitness. Not for ideas. But for Hobart. And yet, somehow, those walks became his clearest thinking moments. No screens, no calls. Just the soft patting of paws beside him and the distant hum of a waking city. At home, the transformation was even more striking. Elon's kids, who were used to a father often absorbed by work and innovation, now had a new way to connect with him, through Hobart. Weekend visits became more playful. The backyard, once a quiet luxury, turned into a playground of laughter and barking. The children adored Hobart. And for the first time in a long time, Elon found himself sitting in the grass, shoes off, laughing as Hobart chased a frisbee, kids shouting in delight. He wasn't just watching them. He was with them. One evening, as they gathered in the living room, his youngest curled up beside Hobart and asked, "Do you think he picked you on purpose?" Elon paused, looking at the scruffy dog who was now nuzzled between two kids, eyes half closed. "I think maybe we both needed each other," he said quietly. In the workplace, Hobart became somewhat of a legend. Tesla's engineers started calling him the chief morale officer. SpaceX employees would sneak him bites of their lunch. He had favorite napping spots in nearly every office. And without fail, his mere presence seemed to soften the room, even during the most high-stakes discussions. Elon noticed the change in his team. People smiled more. Meetings were less tense. He once caught a senior engineer, known for his no-nonsense attitude, baby-talking to Hobart in the break room. It wasn't just cute. It was healing. Because in high-pressure environments filled with metrics, deadlines, and moonshot goals, Hobart offered something radically different: presence without expectation. Joy without agenda. Elon started including Hobart in interviews, not because it was good PR, but because it was honest. When asked why he kept bringing a dog to work, Elon shrugged and said, "He reminds me to stay grounded. To pause. He's a walking meditation in fur." And people listened. It was a different side of Elon Musk, one the public rarely got to see. Not the ambitious disruptor or the relentless innovator, but the man who picked up a stray because he couldn't walk away. The story of Hobart continued to grow. News outlets revisited the viral moment when the little pup followed Elon through the streets. Social media accounts dedicated to Hobart began to pop up. Artists drew fan art of Hobart wearing a tiny SpaceX hoodie. Kids sent in letters with doodles and questions like, "Does Hobart get to go to Mars too?" But what surprised Elon most wasn't the attention, it was the impact. Shelters began reporting an increase in adoption inquiries. Families who'd been on the fence about getting a pet now felt encouraged. We saw Hobart's story, many said, and it reminded us that small acts matter. One shelter director emailed Elon directly. "Your story gave people hope. And it gave our animals a second chance. Thank you." He read that message twice. Then a third time. In that moment, Elon realized something strange and beautiful. All the interviews, all the conferences, all the announcements, none had moved people quite like this simple, human act. And it hit him, maybe legacy isn't just what you build. Maybe it's also who you choose to care for. Late one night, after a long day of planning, Elon sat on his porch. The stars above reminded him of the scale of everything he worked on: Mars, colonization, survival of the species. He often felt the weight of it, like every decision he made was part of something colossal. But then Hobart padded up beside him, curled into a tight ball, and rested his head on Elon's foot. No noise. No drama. Just presence. And in that quiet moment, Elon let out a long breath and whispered, "I don't know where this world is heading. But I know right now, I'm exactly where I need to be." You never know the power of one quiet choice until it echoes through lives you've never even met. It started with a few emails. Then it became hundreds. People from all over the world, parents, teachers, college students, shelter workers, even astronauts, began writing to Elon. Some shared stories of stray dogs they had rescued after hearing about Hobart. Others wrote about how they had decided to volunteer at local shelters, start animal funds, or simply take a moment to notice the world around them more gently. One message read, "I've followed your career for years, Elon. But this story, this made me cry. It reminded me what kind of world I want to live in. Thank you for showing that kindness still matters." Another said, "My son has autism. He saw the video of you with Hobart and asked if we could adopt a dog too. That dog, who we named Star, now sleeps next to him every night. It's changed our lives." Elon was floored. He'd sent satellites into space and never seen a reaction quite like this. And it wasn't about him. It was about the connection. The truth that even the busiest, most logical, most future-driven mind still craved something real, simple, and rooted in the present. So he did something unusual. Elon paused. For the first time in years, he postponed a major launch, not due to technical setbacks or investor concerns, but because his heart told him there was something else he needed to build first. A small team from his philanthropic division gathered in the Tesla conference room, where Hobart lounged under the table, occasionally licking someone's foot like a furry creative director. "I want to launch something," Elon said, "but not into space." They waited. "I want to create a foundation. Not for innovation. Not for tech. For animals. For shelters. For stray kids, even. For any soul that's been overlooked." Someone blinked. "You mean, because of Hobart?" Elon nodded. "Exactly because of Hobart." And just like that, the Hobart Project was born. It wasn't a flashy announcement. No staged event. Just a simple post on Elon's Twitter. Some missions don't need rockets. Introducing the Hobart Project, supporting animal rescues, shelter adoptions, and kindness in small forms. Because sometimes, the smallest lives teach the biggest lessons. The internet lit up. Within 48 hours, donations flooded in. Celebrities pledged support. Schools started kindness challenges in Hobart's name. People shared their own rescue stories using the hashtag #HeartsLikeHobart. And through it all, Hobart? He didn't know. He just continued to nap beside Elon during Zoom calls, greet factory workers like they were family, and curl up next to the kids at night like he had always belonged. But even in the middle of joy, life has a way of testing what we hold dear. One Friday afternoon, Elon received a call while reviewing engine specs in his design lab. Hobart had slipped out during a delivery at the house. The gate had been left ajar. He was gone. Elon stood in silence for a long moment before muttering, "Find him." Within minutes, a search was underway. Cameras were scanned. Local shelters were alerted. Drones were deployed. Yes, actual drones. But Elon didn't wait. He left the office, got into a Tesla, and began combing the streets himself. Hobart's face had been seen by millions, but to Elon, he wasn't a symbol. He was his dog. His family. As he drove, memories flashed: the first walk, the first bark, the way Hobart would nudge his hand when meetings got too long. The quiet look that said, "I'm here." Hours passed. Sunset came and went. Elon, tired and frustrated, finally stopped on a quiet street near downtown. He got out of the car and sat on a bench. Just breathe. And then, just as the night wind began to rise, he heard it. The soft shuffle of paws on pavement. He turned. Hobart was there. Dirty. Scraped. A little limping. But very much alive. Elon dropped to his knees as Hobart rushed forward and leaped into his arms. "You absolute maniac," Elon whispered, pulling him close. "You're not allowed to scare me like that again." Hobart licked his face once, then rested his head on Elon's shoulder. That night, Elon didn't sleep in his bed. He lay on the living room floor, next to Hobart's dog bed, one arm draped over his furry side, listening to the dog's steady breathing. In the silence, he understood something. It wasn't just that Hobart needed him. He needed Hobart too. Not just as a pet. As a mirror. A mirror reflecting what he'd almost forgotten in his race to change the world: that love, in its purest form, isn't loud. It doesn't demand. It simply shows up, again and again, quietly saying, "I'm here." And that was worth everything. Some legacies are measured in patents and buildings. Others, measured in quiet moments, wagging tails, and lives touched by simple acts of kindness. Years passed. The world changed, as it always does. Technology leapt forward. New cities took shape. The first human habitats on Mars were no longer a dream, but a countdown. Elon Musk, ever the futurist, remained at the center of it all. Headlines continued to echo with phrases like neural breakthroughs, hyperloop revolution, and quantum colonization. But behind the buzzwords and global ambition, one thing remained unchanged. Hobart. Now older, with a little gray around his muzzle, Hobart still followed Elon through the halls of SpaceX. He no longer trotted, he strolled, with the calm confidence of a dog who knew he belonged. Engineers would smile as he walked by, a living legend in his own right. Some of the younger interns weren't even sure who had come first, Hobart or Tesla. At home, Hobart had become a pillar. He was there for birthdays, quiet nights by the fire, tears shed in solitude, and belly laughs shared over dinner. The kids, now older, still called him their space dog. He'd aged, sure, but never lost that spark. Neither had Elon. In fact, something had subtly shifted in him. His speeches grew more personal. His decisions, though still bold, seemed to come from a deeper place. He invested more into humanitarian causes. Animal rescue programs. Mental health support for workers. Scholarships for students interested not just in building machines, but in building meaning. And when asked why, he always came back to the same answer. Hobart taught me what matters. One day, during a rare sit-down interview for a global documentary on visionaries, the host leaned forward and asked, "You've built electric cars, explored Mars, redefined artificial intelligence. But if you had to be remembered for just one thing, what would it be?" Elon sat in silence for a while. Then he looked down at the floor, where Hobart was lying, head resting on crossed paws, eyes half closed. "I used to think legacy was about being first," he said slowly. "First to innovate. First to launch. First to change the world. But Hobart showed me it's also about being present. Being kind. Choosing to care, even when it's inconvenient." He smiled. He's the best thing that ever followed me. The audience didn't clap right away. They were too moved. The moment said more than any visionary blueprint ever could. As Hobart grew older, Elon adjusted. Their walks became slower. The office visits less frequent. Hobart preferred naps in the garden now, lying in the sun, eyes watching the sky he used to chase birds in. One evening, Elon sat beside him on the porch. The stars were out, bright, clear, eternal. "You know," he whispered, "when I said I wanted to change the world, I didn't realize you'd change mine first." Hobart didn't respond, of course. But in the quiet flicker of the stars, Elon felt something unspoken pass between them. Gratitude. Love. Completion. When Hobart passed, peacefully in his sleep one autumn morning, the world mourned with him. Tributes poured in, not just from celebrities or fans, but from shelter workers, children, teachers, and strangers who'd never met either of them. Social media flooded with photos of dogs named Hobart, stories of rescues inspired by a single act, and notes like, "We adopted because of Hobart. I forgave someone because of Hobart. I learned to slow down, to notice, to love, because of Hobart." Elon didn't post anything for a week. Then one day, quietly, he shared a photo of Hobart sleeping in his lap from years ago, ears folded, eyes peaceful. The caption simply read, "Some rockets reach space. Others reach the heart." The Hobart Foundation continued to grow. It expanded into over 20 countries, supporting not just animal rescues, but programs for compassion education, emotional healing, and connection in underserved communities. Schools taught kids about empathy using Hobart's story. Shelters adopted Hobart Days, where fees were waived and the goal was simple: give every forgotten soul a second chance. Hobart became more than a dog. He became a symbol. A reminder that even in a world of artificial intelligence and Martian frontiers, the most human thing we can ever do is care. And Elon? He kept going, building, dreaming, reaching for the stars. But every now and then, in the quiet moments no one saw, he would pause. And he would smile. Because somewhere in the fabric of his incredible, improbable life, a little scruffy puppy had followed him and taught him how to come home.